Okay, 666, but I'm here with my sevens. I don't even care if I make it into heaven. I'm up all night trying to make it with my veterans. Up all night hearing whispers from the devil. I can't lie, I fucking love it. This world's cold, someone open up a fucking oven. Man, this world needs love, needs fucking love it. But fuck it, there's too much shit that people fucking up with. So fuck it, let it burn, burn, baby burn. And maybe they'll learn, maybe learn. Please, if they fake, please can come out my funeral. They took too long to listen, I don't want nothing to do with them.
Yeah, still locked up. All in plea deals made under threat, arrest, coercion, sleep deprivation. Crazy. So, I mean, denying talk is medicine. Crazy, you know? Crazy. Oh, you never heard? Yeah. Dr. York L. They know what they did. They no fair trials with yellow journalism. Reporting false info. Destroyed the land. Destroyed all the pyramids. You know what they did? Arrested Doc at the shopping mall. Like he got so much arms that he's dangerous. Crazy. So crazy. You don't even know. Y'all don't even study. Y'all got Nuwapian Moors Constitution. How y'all let them get locked up, yo? How y'all let it happen? It's all good. It's really all good. It's all good. Yeah. So Doc L put me on MC and MAC on the Euro last names, Moorish family tree. Questioning Muslims and Christian belief systems. Battling county zone and bylaw fiction. Some say planet risk, I call him Yamasee Chief Black Eagle. Come to teach Nubian people. Nuwapians are Moorish, because ancient Egypt is stagnant. They so sick he brought them holy tablets. Forgot they true Alidos following Imam Isa. Signing with no rights reserved on corporate visas. Trump up charges by the city of Georgia. Hearing the torture, he got what give you nausea and make you question the trial, judge and jury. Deliberating, drinking liquor from the Sage's brewery. Sounds like a conspiracy from what I've seen. Nuwapians should sue the state under Title 18 instead of marching and picketing like niggas they not. Nuwapians came to the temple and taking shots at Juali. Almost trying to diss the program, but silent. When I asked to see the Doc Morris holy program. Another political prisoner, kidnapped for opening the minds of the listener. Any person I hit behind for a fraud. So he told y'all, where your master God, Doc L. Another political prisoner, kidnapped for opening the minds of the listener. And he knew he might get caught out for a fraud. So he told y'all, where your master God. 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 Color of office and authority and making. Made dogs sleep on ice blocks and force their bacon to 4 sleepless nights before the trial date. Trump up charges of child molesting and rape. Witnesses said his son made him make up the lies in conspiracy with CIA and FBI. AEO audios, the black book kept me high in spirits. Master teacher's voice, I still hear it. Color of office and authority and making. Made dogs sleep on ice blocks, force their bacon to 4 sleepless nights before the trial date. Trump up charges of child molesting and rape. Witnesses said his son made him make up the lies in conspiracy with CIA and FBI. AEO audios, the black book kept me high in spirits. Master teacher's voice, I still hear it. Said L, another political prisoner, kidnapped for opening the mind.
Islam, boys. Peace and love. We have to give supreme honors to His Imperial Majesty and Empress Menen for being an example for us, for being an example, a pristine example of how royal we are. that we have a lot of reference points to show that we are the true sovereigns. And all these people who claim that or exercise that they were sovereign, nobody debated with them. There's no questioning anything. They just accepted the fact. But as soon as Morris talked, so we just wanted to run this. There's no audio. Now remember that the highlight of the coronation was that this was the first time in Ethiopian history that the empress and the emperor were coronated on the same day. First time in the history of these people's lineage of emperors and empresses, kings and queens. There was no budging. Everybody knew what was up. When their time came, everyone knew what was up. Because they were setting a standard. They were unifying religions. They were balancing the scale from a worldview, balancing the scale so that the people can see for themselves what the standard is. He didn't do like all the ones before him and have his own day to get coronated or whatever. The matriarch was brought in to be coronated on the same day. That sets a standard. And remember, that's 1930. So that's right after Noble Drew Ali transition. And don't forget, the Moorish Jews of Harlem got their own personal invite to be at the coronation. The Moorish Zionist Jews. The Moorish Jews. Now, the reason why he invited the Moorish Jews this is why those specific Jews were invited to be part of the coronation was because His Imperial Majesty, Her Imperial Majesty, they're already familiar with the history of the Moors. They're already familiar with it. They don't have to fight with it like our people fight with it. Remember, these are the people who are dignitaries across the world. Everybody knows who these people are. And these people are familiar with who Moors are. They're familiar with who Moors are. Moors were around them. Turbans and fezzes were around them. in quote unquote Ethiopia. If turbans and fezzes were around them, that means they were familiar with Moors. Forget about the position that they held, because, you know, we don't want to be speculators and assume that they were slaves or whatever, because they're carrying something. That could be the boss of the slave that's carrying that, which puts slavery in a whole different perspective, depending on what side you're on, the sovereign side or the wardship side. And depending on your sovereign, you might enjoy your wardship. You wouldn't even be complaining to be a ward. When certain people were in power, and they like to say that certain people enslaved certain people and they wore fezzes, and you can go to the Congo or whatever and see. How come Haile Selassie at his coronation isn't worried about some negative connotation of a fez? So we just wanted to give supreme honors to them for acknowledging the Moors that were of the Judaic faith. Those Moors, not the Islamic Moors, the Moors who had the 6-point star and all that. Those Moors that were in Harlem, that everybody knows about them. They got the sign and all that stuff to prove it. The quote unquote Israelites that they don't talk about. The Hebrew Israelites they don't talk about that got invited to the coronation. Not just invited to go, but to be part of it. The Moorish ones, the Moorish branch of the Black Israelite whatever, were the ones who got invited. Go ask all the other ones who didn't get invited. They'll tell you. But their guys are the number one guys of the Hebrew whatever. All these fictions are starting to blow away in the wind. It's so crazy that people are now, who were in exile or whatever, now going after your youth now. They already raped you. Now they're going to go rape your youth now. And you're going to let them. Just because you think that you have some control over your child because you homeschool them or whatever. You put that little thing in their hand. That thing with the screen that they could just put their finger on the screen and they can move stuff and pick stuff and all that stuff. You keep putting that in their hand unmonitored. Like when you just happen to get busy and then they go by somebody else and they're like, here, take this and you go play. You'll realize then. Standards been set. Your youth are the new victims. The old school pimps that you used to know that were pimping, brother, your daughter, they're pimping now. And you're not worried. You're not concerned. Because you have knowledge of self and you know who you are and you know that they put you in slavery and you know all of that. You know you went to the dungeon and all of that stuff and you smelt how it smelled down there. And you're telling me that these Europeans were doing this on quote unquote African soil. Like they had the dungeon on African soil, holding Africans, Europeans. And Africans were just sitting back watching Europeans do that. How is it that you're over here and you're talking about stuff from over there? In hindsight, man, you were never over there. You always been over here. You assume you've been over there. People over there tell you, you're not from over here. Go back over there. But because of little BS like Liberia or whatever, they think going back there to Africa is something to do, when they got stuff around here that they never even went to yet. Right under their nose, where they're going all down to their toes to go look for something. And they're taking your children's minds. They got them trying to do Kaepernick and getting kicked off the team and stuff like that. They won't tell you about those ones. Everybody thinks it's a poppy show. Get your tight pants, have your hat bigger than your head, and we'll just spit some knowledge and say that we're helping our people. Let's get the tightest shirt ever, and we'll just pretend that we're their favorite conscious scholar guy. When, like, right now, like, we're engaging youth right now who are, they don't know where to turn. Because everywhere that they went, they realized that there's some serious flaws in it. And that's supposed to be what they're supposed to liberate themselves with. And we're telling them little small things. We're telling them little small things like, no, don't take pictures of the board. Take notes. Get a book. Get a book. Start taking notes. What the hell are you doing with pictures of your notes? You know what pictures you're gonna have of goddamn notes? And teachers gonna let you do that or whatever, just because, hey, you know what I mean? That's what you want to do, hey, do your thing. You know, instilling certain things in them, like, get out the hall. What are you doing? You know you're missing something right now that you should probably be trying to take in. Because, we're going to draw these at get the good European education. Because really, we taught them. So they don't know anything spectacular that we didn't know first. But the story, the myth is a very crucial part of the brainwash. The myth of detaching yourself from your culture here to put it somewhere that only your ancestors were. You were never there. Your ancestors were there. From that perspective, you were there. But You saying, admitting that I'm born in America, but then when I go to Africa, it feels like home. You're a crazy person. You lost your mind, which is why we always get with the Moors who study and who just have stuff just there so we can put some stuff out so that people can learn. Because trust me, people are learning. People are emailing all the time. Hey, I'm in this territory. You know any Moors around here? Yeah, man, call this Moor. They call them. These Moors are on the phone 12 hours building. Like building up so much spiritual energy that it's eventually going to be a problem for certain people that try to pull stuff because we already have the upper hand. Because we already saw you jump in and phase out. And then now you're coming again to try to latch the new generation. Which shows you how much disregard they have for making sure that the truth is what's presented. Not your opinion to get people's attention. What the hell's the truth? There's a lot more. Oh, yeah, one more before we go further. Haile Selassie quote. Africans are in bondage today because they approach spirituality through religion provided by foreign invaders and conquerors. We must stop confusing religion and spirituality. Religion is a set of rules, regulations, and rituals created by humans which were supposed to help people grow spiritually. Due to human imperfection, religion has become corrupt, political, and divisive, and a tool for power struggle. Spirituality is not theology or ideology. It is simply a way of life, pure and original, as was given by the Most High of creation. Spirituality is a network linking us to the Most High, the universe, and each other. As the essence of our existence, it embodies our culture, true identity, nationhood, and destiny. A people without a nation that they can really call their own are a people without a soul. Africa is our nation, and it is in spiritual and physical bondage because her leaders are turning to outside forces for solutions to African problems when everything Africa needs is within her. When African righteous people come together, the world will come together. This is our divine destiny. So with that, I'm going to yield the floor. There's a lot more.
There's a lot more.
So, we know you've been always on your studying, and as much as we do what we can do to put people on the spot when they're talking folly, whether it's through people's questions or just this age of everybody can upload whatever, whenever, go live anytime. There's certain things that need to be addressed. And one of them is how people throw Moors in a title of something to push their agenda. And then you're dealing with me about that, but if you could start with that.
That green sheet, you're gonna have to say that one more time, because you're gonna have to forgive me. I was in there with my son. I'm so sorry about that. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
That.
No worries, no worries. So you were talking to me about how this thing of people putting more in the title of something.
Right.
Right. But then when you check the thing, it's the propaganda. So let's talk.
Right.
Yeah.
To get more views, and that's what a lot of them do. And then it's so we already know that's an agenda behind that, because is it really about helping the people, or is it really about the views? Because they already know once you put more in anything, everybody's going to run to that. Everybody wants to know what that is about. You're saying about the Moors, but then when everybody runs to it, it's 45 minutes of everything else in a quick 5-10 minutes section about the Moors. But then when you listen to it about the Moors, it's saying stuff, but it's not saying it's truth and falsehood, strangely mixed. And it worked with it very well in a lot of videos, but specifically Polite's video that he just put out, saying stuff about the Moors and that definition of the free white person. And he keeps trying to play the game that the free white person will goes to, his words is the Caucasoid, or the modern European. So he's saying it goes to them, which is not true at all, because everybody knows the famous book, Ancient and Modern Britons, by David McRitchie. He explains it. Now he's saying in the free white person, it says that about the Scandinavians. Now he's being adamant about how the Scandinavians would be the so-called pale skin modern European. He would say that was them, but that's not them at all. Those was Moors, because according to David McRitchie, which Scandinavia is in the northern part of Europe, and it's where the Vikings come from. So now David McRitchie, he says in Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1, page 299, he says, those Hebridean Malays, Algerines, or whatnot, were thus the savages of whom Pennant speaks, whose depredations were so frequent and so much to be dreaded several centuries ago, that the chiefs of the civilized inhabitants of Skye were accustomed to go armed to church, as did the Puritan settlers in New England. Quote, and for the same reasons, the dread of savages. They are better known in modern history under the general designation of Vikings or Creekmen. But it seems likely that the Creekmen or pirates were chiefly of the races of the Cimbri or Black Danes and Mori or Blackamoors of an earlier date, known vaguely as the Picti or Painted People, and Scots or Vagabonds. And there is much reason for believing that the ancient British home of some section of those Scots was Egypt. Now that's the Scandinavians or the Vikings, Creekmen, Blackamoors, Danes, that he's talking about, which is in Free White Person, Black's Law Dictionary. It all goes right back to the Moors every time. It's not no, as he's saying, we'll go back to pale skin European, modern European or whatnot. That goes to the Moors.
Mm-hmm.
So even when you see those titles in the Free White Person, in the Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition for Free White Person, all those titles go to Moors. That doesn't apply to them at all. And it says it in there too. It does not mean Caucasian race. It doesn't mean that. Right in there. They skip right over that part.
Now, how? Because even there was this man named George Fitzhugh. George Fitzhugh had a quote saying, "Slavery, black or white, is right and necessary." Slavery, black or white, is right and necessary. The principle of slavery is itself right and does not depend on difference of complexion. Well, obviously, these are Europeans, and they have to present their position. Like how is it, like when they're saying in their own thing that does not mean Caucasian race.
Right.
But then people are taking it because it says Scandinavian or, Greek or whatever, that it's relative to some European.
But then he contradicts himself too, because he calls him Caucasoid. But in the definition, it says it does not mean Caucasian race.
Right.
So they're like, yeah. Just the truth and falsehood strangely mixed.
Right. And just check what's good. Right? Check what's good. You think it's nuts, but yo, you see, Jerry Blaze used to be Jerry Blaze only. Now he's got the Bay on there. Conway used to be Conway Stevens only. Now he's got the L in there. Do you think people are now waking up to their birthrights and their nationality? Like, these are people who I know that, oh yeah, they got this info. No, they got this info. Not turning back. They know what Drew Ali brought. They're not guessing. It's not, oh yeah, because Yusuf said the book, then Yusuf is the god of the Moors and we're going to chase after him or whatever. There's always going to be the trying to tie you to give up the statuses. It's a thing, like get you to give up statuses. Right? free white person is a status that you can actually use. Because it's a status. Like, well, how are you going to use it or whatever? Who knows? Who knows? But it'll present itself for you to exercise. Hey, are you a free white person right now? If you claim that you are, then guess what? There you go. Juali told you this is not supposed to be some back to Africa. Anything. Forget back to Africa. It's not even worth the trip. Because there's too much to get done here. And again, they're going to bring up their little thing. Well, Ghana said they're going to give you a visa and they're going to give you a whatever. Well, how come y'all still here? Why y'all still here then? What are you still doing here? Because obviously they're telling you come back home. So if your claim is you're not from here, then get the packing. Why not? It's not a kicking you out. It's a you're getting to go back home. This is what you wanted? Isn't that what you wanted? I mean, why? And they're never gonna go. Right? They're never gonna go. They're gonna stay here. They're gonna stay here. Why are they gonna stay here? Because this is where they're from.
Yep.
This is their home. They're playing. Lamar, I know you had some other references. You wanted to play any of this stuff, or you wanted to just put out where you had there, where you pulled out to put on them?
I mean, you can play it. Yeah, play it. Yeah, I'd rather play it. Yeah. Play some of this stuff, please.
And here you see a Baba on the wall. As we cross the threshold, the door of return, because now we're invited back to relink with our living ancestors and the motherland from which we all derive. Akwaba.
Modesty. That means thank you.
But that's because the doors have been opened by way of the Ghanaians forced to come back because they recognize how we left and how we've been stripped of our identity. So
No. What identity were you stripped of? That should be ultimately, if they stripped you of your identity and then put you on a slave ship, then now that you're off, first thing you should want to do is get your identity back. Now we know that that identity that you were taken as slave or whatever would not be Ghanaian. Because I'm pretty sure your ancient forefathers didn't call themselves that. It wouldn't be West African. Because I'm pretty sure ancient forefathers aren't going to call themselves something that came out of the Berlin Conference. And you have to bring up the identity. You have to talk about the identity.
Yep.
Because being stripped of the identity is what has them doing BS to you.
Yep. I got a question for you, Green Sheet.
Yeah, man.
He was, if he's right there. Where is he, in Ghana? If he's in Ghana right there, and he's saying that,
I don't think he's in Ghana right there. I don't know.
Huh?
I don't think he's in Ghana. I don't know where he is in there.
Okay, wherever he's at, let's just do that. Wherever he's at, why won't he? And he said that's where our people were stripped of their identity. Okay, you're there right now. Go get your identity. Why don't you? You're there right now. Go get it back right now. Right? While he was there, why didn't he go set that up? Why did he come back over here?
Right.
That's a major question to me. Like, okay, you lost your identity. All right, go get it back. You're there. You're even there. You're there right now.
The same place where it got stolen at.
Right.
Yeah. Or whenever he went there, because he was in the dungeon and all of that stuff. So he was there. Now, did he go and get the identity and come back here with it and show you, hey, I got the identity back, so now you can come, so we can go get the identity? Because that's the point of the slave myth. They have to prove that something got taken from you. Because what could they say got taken from you? What could they say that European really took like that? Majority of stuff they got was after we transitioned, and they raided tombs and all that. They didn't digest what we told them when they came to our schools or whatever. Those 6 guys that graduated, 6 guys graduated out of 50,000. 6, that's it. They didn't get what we gave them. It was beyond the comprehension. But look at the play that people are like over exaggerating, right, to compensate for what, we've already exposed about the folly of this. It's not just us. The Moors across the board have talked about the fraud of the slave, whatever. So what's the point of this? To get the younger generation who are just coming into this with their Kaepernick BS. They think that they got an afro, they're conscious. They think they could do some poetry, some spoken word or whatever, they're conscious. But their households are in shambles. But they can do some good poetry though. But they're stressed the hell out because they didn't eat breakfast for 5 days. Their mom don't got nothing in the fridge and all that. And then try and tell people to pack up and leave to go across the Atlantic Ocean, to go somewhere where you don't even know what's going on there. Like you're talking about, yeah, we're going to take all our stuff. You take all your stuff, you go there, and then man throws you a tent and say, here, welcome to Africa. What happens then? Because like we said, if you're not going there with some heavy machinery or whatever like that, don't waste your time. Accept the fact that you're Aboriginal and Indigenous and stop playing around. but you came from somewhere. And not even that you came from somewhere, someone brought you from somewhere. You let somebody bring you from somewhere else that you call your home. And you're braggadocious about it. Like, yeah, they brought us. Here's the castle where they had us standing in our own shit and our own piss or whatever like that. And we didn't give a shit. We just stood here in this waiting to go on the ship because we were packed in here like sardines, so we couldn't really get out or anything like that. And then, you know, after they opened this door, this was the last time that we saw our land. And then we got on the ship and then we went across the ocean for 6 months with no water, nothing. And then we ended up in America and then got off the ship and went in the fields.
So you passed the Moors on the way.
No, because remember, they couldn't see that because they were in the belly of the ship where.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, remember, the slaves never got to go on deck to see anything.
Right.
You know, because so they were stuck in the belly, just in their own shit and piss, just there, right? You know, it's funny how they were in shit and piss in the dungeon before they go on the ship, right? And then they took them straight out the shit and piss and then put them on the ship. And then for 6 months they shit and piss on themselves, and then they got off in America and they just went in the field to go pick cotton. These men never brush his teeth for 6 months. You're talking about you're checking somebody's mouth to see if they got good teeth or whatever. The hell out of here. Talking your BS about slaves came over here by somebody. How is it that there's a slave castle in an African place and you're talking about some Europeans? How? Like I say, I don't see any Chinese Ministry of Transportation that some Europeans are in there and people are going to them to go get licenses. I don't see that.
Oh my goodness. They got to answer a lot of questions, because even if we said, well, let's play the game of Morocco was over there, right? During slavery. Like, they paying ransoms, they paying tribute, all of that to Tunis, Tunisia, Algiers, all of the little kingdoms over there. They pay everybody, all the emperors, pirate, they getting kidnapped, all of that. To, let's say, over there. At the same time that we're getting tribute, the treaty wasn't until 1787. So-called slavery started in Virginia 1619. How are they passing past the Moroccan? If that's the Moroccan Empire over there, how are they passing by the whole Moroccan Empire to get slaves? How did they pass by a whole Moroccan Empire? That's the empire. They're saying that's the empire over there. That's the whole empire. They got to get past all of that first. That would be it. You would have to be able to. You would have to go by all of that when you're paying. While you're getting kidnapped and ransomed. You're looking. They made a treaty with France, because France made a treaty with Morocco. They ended up trying to sneak in with France to try to get Morocco to cover for them, but the emperor seen it and it almost messed up the treaty with France. Like, what do you mean? Can they get protection too. No, they can't get protection. We like, no, we were still ransoming. Even when they had the treaties, we were still kidnapping and ransoming. But that's what I'm saying. Like, when they say the slavery was going on in those dungeons, that's why I want to know, where was that dungeon at? Because they were still paying tribute up until 1787. I at least know that. I know this because they had to pay for that treaty. So I know they had to at least pay up to that. But
yeah, but this is why we have to go back again to Drew Ali and saying, yo, it has to be your own putting you back in slavery.
Yeah.
Because this is quote unquote an African jurisdiction. How's a European have a castle there selling slaves in their jurisdiction? Unless these men have some type of hand in it and it was really their stuff. And they were the ones selling their own people and selling other tribes and whatever.
Mm.
And the lie has been
to
not accept that fact. Not accept the fact that you did it to your own. And we're not talking about some Moors did it or whatever. I'm saying your brother did that to you. Face the reality. Don't get mad and try to dodge what you know we did. Just like you accept the great stuff we did, accept the BS we did too. But some people want to stay on that BS. They don't want to change.
Go back to Africa. It's kind of like, if we don't go back to Africa, there's no amount of success we can have anywhere around the world that will revoke this process until we return to the place we were stripped of or stripped from. You know, someone took us from our home. So it doesn't matter if we make America our home or anywhere else. We got to go back to where they took us from, because obviously there was a reason why they took us from over there. So for me, I'm like, that's why I got a home out there now. I'm going right back to it in a few days, actually. After I go to LA, switch some clothes finally. I've been going back and forth to New York. And, you know, taking my baby girl, my wife here, I'm Annette, and we out. But I have to go back. They're making concessions to us on account of history. And people could say they could do more. Look, they the ones that enslaved you. You know, Negroes say everything, but I mean, y'all always upset. Now someone says, we're sorry. And we're going to meet you some of the way. We're going to give you land if you're willing to build. We're going to make it easier for you to get visas. We're going to give you the right to abode. And it's going to be easier for you to get dual citizenship. What else do you want? And no one else is giving us anything because of what we've been doing. You feel what I'm saying? And it's a developing city. And it's neighboring the best economy in the continent of Africa. It's neighboring the best economy in the continent of Africa. That of, in the case of Nigeria.
It's wrong, Grandchi.
Yeah, man.
Ghana's a corporation, too.
Oh, interesting.
You can Google it. I forgot what year it was established. I looked it up. Ghana's a corporation. I think it's British.
So you have all these people running back. Those people running back to a place where they're going to be quote unquote partial, not parcel. They're already that here. They leave here to go over there to be part and partial again. Because like the Moore saying, they're going right back into a corporate jurisdiction.
Yep. They always try to put you back in slavery.
Because remember, they can't do it here now. Because the game's up. We've been exposed them. So now they have to find another avenue now to approach. They can't approach from the path where the people are waiting with the bats to beat you down. They have to go the other way. They have to try to find an entry point that nobody's manning that gate. Playing this BS about going back to Africa and Africa's giving you land, so why don't you go to Africa? What? Don't you find it interesting that it took them 400 years to say, hey, sorry about that over there. We had a lot to do with that BS that you went through. Come on back so we can, you know, give you somewhere to live over here. So you can think you're from over here. How come it took them so long? How come 5, 6, 7 years ago, it wasn't the talk that they were going to give you stuff? They're going to give you your dual. Where was it? Nowhere to be found. But just like everything else that they try to sell you, it's a fraud. What you're lacking is the truth about your nationality and your birthrights. That you're not Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian, or came from some ship.
Or Aboriginal, Tonkinist, whatever stuff.
None of that. Need more. Yo, you have another reference point there you can read?
Okay.
Because there was I think there was two that you read.
All right.
Yeah.
In the book, we are all Moors again from Anur Majid, page 66. He says, he's talking about another author. In his book, La Herencia Medieval de Mexico, Louis Weckman makes the connection between Moor and Indian in the eye of the conquistador unambiguous. Quote, the Hieronymite friars refer to the inhabitants of Hispaniola as these Moors. In the initial years in New Spain, the term mosque was used to name the indigenous places of worship, and in the term alfaqui to refer to the indigenous priests. Martin Vasquez calls Chiloa a Moorish pueblo. Castillo Blanco had 14 mosques, or places of worship, and many more existed in Taxicala and what is the
Teotihuacan?
Yep.
Yeah.
They found there was a mosque in there.
Yeah.
Whose largest temple with exquisite stonework in wood. the Zaquazanes, meaning Alfedries, the conquistadors, were not surprised at finding in New Galatia, as mentioned in the second Anonymous report, quote, woman branded, that is marked with a branding iron on the chin, like Moorish women. Not finding mosques in Florida and Chicoquara or in New Mexico. So they look, that's what they found. So when the conquistadors got here, they was finding mosques in Florida and New Mexico, and they saw Moorish. They saw women who were branded like on the chin, just like Moorish women. That's for the conquistadors, what they saw when they got here. Mosque in Florida.
Right.
It's 1 hour away from Ghana. Nigeria is an amazing place too. It's a very amazing place. They've given birth to at least 3 billionaires, right? That are in the top rankings for the top 100 wealthiest people in the world, one of which is a female. You know, Africa is doing a lot more better than people realize, and it's easier to generate revenue out there.
So let me ask you, now that you had this great opportunity to experience this, what goes through your mind now when you see these Moors and these Aborigines and these Hebrews say, we didn't go through slavery. That's all a hoax. And I'm quite sure you probably heard that too, Herm. These particular groups, not the Hebrews say, yes, we did go through slavery. But in particular, they said the Aborigines, the so-called Aborigine people and the Moors say,
I got another one for him. For that with the slavery. Yeah. Because you know how we say, yeah, it happened, but it didn't happen like that.
Right.
So here goes an example of the slavery of the Moors, so-called slavery of the Moors in New Mexico when the conquistadors got here. It says, both the Guidics, this is, We Are All Moors, page 67. Both the Guidics and Mexico conferences emphasize the teaching and indoctrination of Moriscos and Indian children and adults, paying special attention to religious education. The practice of sacraments and vigilance against the temptations of the natives to slide back into their old beliefs. Antonio Dominguez Ortiz and Bernard Vincent have explained that the evangelic efforts of Jesuits focus primarily on the children of Moriscos and Indians, for as a 1525 policy by King Charles V cynically put it, if children were made Christian, it would be easier for their parents to follow suit, because parents would otherwise have to lose their children. So when we're saying, yeah, slavery happened, yeah, that's a form of slavery right there.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Wow.
What goes through your mind now when you have experienced it yourself?
You know, it's a disgrace, and I'm going to tell you why it's a disgrace. Just because you may have come across some information that might have been overlooked. So let me tell you how deep this gets. You can ask yourself, how come some of the Moors were free during the time of us? How come Moors were free during the time of our state of involuntary servitude? And that's because they were considered free white persons. This is a fact. We go to Black Law's Dictionary, we can see free white persons.
Now, again, if Moors were free, because they were claiming to be free white persons, and Moors are dark-skinned people, then dark-skinned people can't say that they were involuntary slaves or that they were under involuntary servitude. Because obviously they volunteered for it by not saying that they're Moors. You have no free national name, then you're victim to any abuses any citizens care to bestow upon you, any mistreatments. You have to take those L's. Just because you're claiming that, oh, there's some free people over there. Well, those free people look like you. Question is, why isn't your ass free? Why are you claiming that your servitude is involuntary when you actually volunteered for it? Because you could be with us, the Moors, and be free. It's not more.
It's not more. I got another one. We are all Moors. Page 64. Both Bartels and Niels note that the Moor category extended to Asians. In his principal navigation voyages, Traffics and Discoveries of the English Nation, the year 1589, that's the name of the book. Richard Hakluyt reported the account of an anonymous Portuguese adventurer who had gone to China and found Moors so far removed from their origins that they had only a rudimentary notion of their belief. Quote, they could say nothing else but Muhammad, and my father was a Moor, and I'm a Moor, with some other words of the Al-Quran, were with all an abstinence from swine's flesh.
You could just back up and just read that part again, because that one has to sink in just a little bit before the part when he went somewhere and he saw Moors there, but he's not talking about anywhere that we've ever heard about that somebody openly said that there's Moors there. So just put that one out again, and just, oh yeah, and the book title again, just so we get the Moors excited to try to get it before they put it up to 600 notes tomorrow.
The name of the book is called We Are All Moors. We Are All Moors by Anor Majid. ANOURMAJID. And he says again, Richard Hakluyt reported the account of an anonymous Portuguese adventurer who had gone to China and found Moors so far removed from their origins that they had only a rudimentary notion of their belief. Quote, they could say nothing else but Muhammad, and my father was a Moor, and I'm a Moor, with some other words of the Al-Quran, where with all an absence from swine's flesh, they live until the devil take them all. Describing the people he had met in China, the Dutch traveler Ian Wujen van Leschensen wrote in his Discourse of Voyages into the Estate in West Indies in 1598 that, quote, those that dwell on the seaside are people of brownish color, like the white Moors in Africa and Barbaria and parts of the Spaniards. I'm going to say that part again.
Yeah, please do.
Quote, that that those that dwell on the seaside are a people of brownish color, like the white Moors in Africa and Barbaria, and part of the Spaniards. But those that dwell within the land are for the color of the Netherlands and High Dutchess. Because of the interaction between Muslims from the Philippines and the Hu Chinese in the Shandong province in the 15th century, the contemporary scholar Minxiar Zhu Jiangdong was told by a Chinese communist official in 1989 that he was a Moor.
That's not fair. That's not fair. Okay, you know what? Okay, one more time. Just one more time. until this book gets here, one more time.
Okay. All right. The name of the book, We Are All Moors. Okay? All right? We are all Moors. Okay. It says, because of the interaction between Muslims from the Philippines and the Hu Chinese in the Shandong province in the 15th century, the contemporary scholar Mansour Zhu Jianglang was told by a Chinese communist official in 1989 that he was a Moor.
Wow. Wow. What more do you want? What more do you want than that? Wow. That's mind blowing. The official came and told him he's a Moor.
Look at this. You ready? Here you go. Got another one. Here you go. The Moor served as a foil for an emerging European consciousness. Patricia Seed has noted that the term Europe was really used before the 15th century, proving that the impetus for a European identity traversed as it was by growing national singularities was expansionism and colonialism. Around the time the Moriscos were being expelled from Spain, Europeans were beginning to define themselves as white.
Stressing again the point of trading places. Take your stuff after they make you forget about it. After they make you think your stuff doesn't exist, like free white status and stuff like that.
Yep. Kicked you out and said, yo, I'm white.
They're white.
Yep.
Took your white power from you.
And that goes back to that, what Polite trying to say, oh, free white person. See? It goes to the Caucasian. No, they took that.
Exactly.
They tried to take that. They tried to take that at one time. No, but in law specific, it tells you who it is. It's the Moors.
Yep. They don't even hide it. They tell you who it is. I know you got some more right there. Unless you want me play him again. Because I think the free white person's coming up right now.
All right.
Moors. All right. This was based on that act that was passed. So the problem is amongst and many Moors will tell you this, the free white persons, amongst the free white persons.
During that time, the European didn't see them as Moors, brother.
No, listen to this. No, that's an inaccuracy. I'm gonna tell you this. It's a fact. If we go on the Black Laws Dictionary, we're gonna see if we look up free white persons.
I know what you're talking about, but I'm talking about at that time. What goes through your mind?
Well, I'm telling you, my brother, walk with me just real quick. I'm telling you that when they passed this act, free white persons was consistent of several different European genotypes, right? Or genetic affinities, I should say.
But free white person definition, free white person definition tells you does not mean Caucasian race.
Yep.
So why are you bringing up Europeans? Why are you bringing up Europeans? Any law dictionary, 4th edition, younger. You're going to get a sub-definition after the definition of free white person. And it's going to be telling you about how it does not mean Caucasian race. So when you hear white, free white, that's not something that's limited to European people because it's a status, not a skin complexion. And again, like you heard them say, they know that. They know what that, they know what's up. They know what free white person means. Remember, they've played the game of hate each other, love each other, hate each other, love each other. There's so much stuff going on. People will be lost trying to find out the truth. Enemies become friends? Really? Maybe some basketball, whatever.
Crazy. Anytime
they start connecting stuff to Europeans, know that they're playing you. Oh yeah, actually I forgot about that. In case you never saw this one. Let's just put this one out there. Since people like to wear fezzes and stuff. Let's put this one out there.
Peace and fraternal greetings. I am Brett Trismegistus, also known as Brett Godson. Some of you may know me as B-God. I am a 32nd degree and Holy Royal Archmason, a tried and true student and scholar of the ancient mysteries and ancient Freemasonry, which are one and the same. Some of you may know this as more science. I come to you at this time with a very important message. Through my diligent studies of the world religions and secret societies, there is no better teaching for the Asiatics in America than the divine wisdom of the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the Moore Science Temple of America. I bear witness to the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali being the sure foundation stone for the redemption and salvation of Asiatics in America who have been misnomered Negro, Black, African American, colored, etc. These labels were created by slave owners and given to their slaves in 1779. Many today, in 2016, still identify with these labels. Words are very important and very powerful, and they have a very strong effect on the human conscious and subconscious mind. These labels were forced upon the Asiatics as a means to dehumanize them and to take away or weaken their identity, their power, their culture, their heritage, and much more. It is very important that you stop identifying with these labels and that you proclaim your nationality and divine creed in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Look into and discover the gifts that the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali prepared for you long ago. I leave you on the 5 points of Moorish science: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
Right?
Not your own, though.
Not your own. Now, which Mason you gonna be backing? I think I'll be backing the Mason that's repping with the Prophet. I'm gonna be backing with the Mason who I really don't know who you're repping with. You got so many sides. There's a little piece more.
Islam.
Yeah, more.
Now, he's going in. We are all Moors. He even got something for the Garveyites. Here we go. Islam was everywhere in the Black nationalist movement. The Jamaican-born Marcus Garvey, jailed and deported from the United States in 1927 for mail fraud, was okay. No, hold on. Okay. It says a convert to Catholicism, so-called Catholicism, and founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA. He was influenced by Deuce Muhammad Ali, the Sudanese Egyptian author of In the Land of the Pharaohs, 1911, which made the case for Islam as a basis for self-government in the 19th century Egypt. Garvey's followers, particularly writers for the Negro world, and Garvey himself made analogies between the struggles of Muslims in Africa against European colonialist powers and their own struggle for equality in the United States, as well as between Garvey's mission and that of Muhammad, the prophet of Islam. At one point, Garvey compared his work and that of his followers to the prophet. As Muhammad, quote, as Muhammad did in his religious world, he said, so is the political arena. We have had men who have had paid the price for leading the people toward the great light of liberty. In 1923, the Garveyite columnist for the Negro world gave a speech in Boston titled, quote, Islam in the Redemption of Africa. I can keep going. That was just for the, okay.
Oh yeah, you go a little more.
All right. This is for the so-called, for the Chicanos or Hispanics, so-called, right? Many Hispanics in the United States, in some ways, are what the Jews used to be, and reclaiming one's Jewish heritage might strike a blow at the essential ideologies of Anglo-Saxon supremacists. Imagine the surprise that must hit those who find out that they are not Jews, but the North African Muslims, the Moors of old. That's for my so-called Hispanic people. It says also, Hispanics' identification with Islam and Arab culture is not a recent phenomenon. as far as back as 1959, Fidel Castro commented that Latin Americans, quote, have lighter or darker skin. Light skin implies descent from Spaniards who themselves were colonized by the Moors. They came from Africa. Those who are more or less dark skinned came directly from Africa. Moreover, nobody can consider himself as being of pure, much less superior race. So even Fidel Castro knew.
Yep.
Here we go. For Chicanos or Hispanics, to find out that they are Jewish or even Muslim is to connect with more than a race. For such vital affiliations makes them part of a glorious legacy, one that included both a great degree of cultural achievement and a history of heroic resistance to disenfranchisement, systematic marginalization, and the constant threat of expulsion. Connecting with one's Moorish or Jewish heritage is to be united with kindred spirits who endured and survived discrimination of the worst sort. Just again to connect the so-called Hispanics, Moors too.
Islam.
He has a quote in here. I want to read this one little quote that he quoted from, the man he quoted is Peter the Venerable.
Peter what?
Venerable, Venerable, Peter the Venerable.
Okay.
1094 AD to 1156 AD. He says, a Jew is not a Jew until he converts to Islam.
Mm. Oh.
That's a dangerous quote. That's 1094 AD, 1156 AD.
You know they were mad at him, yo.
Mad. They were mad.
You know they were mad at him. You know they were mad at him. Let me see how much more of this man I could take right now.
I got another one for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just
okay.
hit him up. Just hit him up right now if you got him.
A little history thing too right here to see where, because okay, the first what is it? The first Holocaust was the Moors' expulsion from Spain. That's the true and only Holocaust, really. But that's the whole Holocaust is the Moors' expulsion. Because okay, for a fact, here we go. It says, like many other, okay, page 57 of We Are All Moors. It says, in the engaged in pleasures of the flesh practice sodomy and proliferated. Okay. Sabataria, the bishop of Segovia, says, like many others we encountered earlier, considered Moriscos to be, quote, far worse than the Jews, and proposed a solution for them that the Nazis would try to apply. So this is where the so-called the Nazis would get their ideas from. He proposed deportation accompanied by the castration of men and the sterilization of women. So they even tell you, like, the Nazis, they got their plan from how Spain did the Moors. They just copied what they did.
No, that's real. Huh? How they use, like, everybody uses the same stuff against the Moors.
That's crazy.
It's freaking nuts. Everybody uses the same stuff.
Crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, Inquisition been running 500 plus years on the Moors.
Oh, been running.
Because Moors want to be fictions. Moors want to play like they're not who they know that they are. They read the book, hugged up with the master teachers and all that. Now they're playing like they don't know stuff. Carried people's casket and stuff like that. Now they don't know.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think that boat got smashed because I really can't take no more of this man right now.
Oh, then you saw Sarnetta.
Who?
Sarnetta tried to do the okie doke, yeah, right? Who tried to do the okie doke? Because anything more that looks like it might be a positive anything, Sarnetta gotta destroy it. He can't.
Yeah.
He can't go along with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all part of the game. Just so you know, it's all a game. Don't get excited. They're playing. It's all a game. Give that 2 months for somebody saying somebody did something to somebody else, and now those guys aren't the guys that I'm gonna go with. Crazy. Do like Brother Yusuf and Brother Wasim and Brother Izzy and Sister Miriam and Phoenix and all these other Moors. Go study. Just go study so you could know for yourself what this is. Because a lot of people can talk some BS about what this is, but until you exercise it yourself, you will not know what it is. Don't talk about any you found out that your ancestors are from Africa or whatever. Africa's America. And what they call Africa is Asia. And Europe's not a continent.
Nope. That's why I said Europe wasn't used to the 1500s.
Right.
Right in the book. It wasn't even using that.
And the only reason that they put Europe is because they had to not use Atlantis. Because Atlantis would really replace Europe if you're talking about the different continents. You want to send Islam to all the Moors worldwide. You want the Moors to have a peaceful, holy evening. Make sure if you're studying, you study well. Make sure if you're chilling well. Don't go crazy. Don't forget willaballah.com, rvbaypublications.com, khalifamedia.com, morrisdirectory.com, Moors and Masonry. And don't forget, Brother Abdullah just dropped a new book. Go get the new book by Brother Abdullah. Check the website, morriscivilletter.net, moorsandmasonry.org, publishinfo.net. Make sure you go get some books from there. Continue to study Moors. Visit your libraries. Visit your bookstores. You never know what you'll find. Islam to all the Moors. Brother Yusuf, you got some closeouts?
Islam. Let me leave him with this last one right here.
Oh, yeah.
And he is the floor.
Go in.
We are all Moors. From Nur Majid, page 49. He states that King Philip II's advisor, Siddique Ferrero Cicero, called for moderation, arguing that, quote, in the whole world, there are only two nations, that of the good and that of the bad. All of the good, whether Jews, Moors, Gentiles, Christians, or some other set, are of the same nation, family, and blood. And the bad, likewise. Islam, all the Moors in the chat.
Islam. Peace and love.
We are all Moors.
We are all Moors.
We are all Moors.
We are all Moors. Islam to all Moors who knows we are all. Peace and love to all the Moors worldwide. I was just trying to find something.
Salam to the Prophet.
Supreme honors to His Imperial Majesty and Empress Menen. Honors to the forerunner Marcus. Marcus Garvey.
That's all facts right there, man. That wasn't I said, oh, the Moors say no.
Facts. Peace and love, Moors. This one's for you, Yusuf.
Peace to the man, peace to the God, brother Prime. This is Star Never speaking, brother. Yo, my man, I listened to all your CDs and I watched some of your DVDs. Beautiful work, brother. I had to give you a call to tell you, especially the music, man, excellent. That's hip hop.
Oh my goodness!
And yeah, man, it's beautiful. I downloaded that joint, playing that joint in the car, and it's on now. It's on now, brother. You know what I'm saying?
My
so I'm definitely proud of the work that y'all doing, and y'all doing it good out there. Keep on doing that work, brother.
We will, we will.
Come on, Taj Tariq school me, so you can't fool me. I get down with severe nature and Dooley, RV Bay, Sheikh Shatik and LK. National Divine MST of A. 5 principles, 5 points on the green star. Not a banner, no need for bandanas. Dramas exist not, no contract I spit hot. Freedom of speech, they sucking like a leech. Demonic democracy, Klansmen teach with their cancer sticks and their coffee stained teeth. Not mutual, so the contracts breach on contact with foreign invaders, giving paper for heirlooms of gold and silver, the real money. I hate to hear my sister compared to honey. Patriarch dummy, matriarch is mommy. She never came from the rib, check the navel on your tummy. No matter the time, can't take my mind from me. Use trick knowledge or try to dumb me. A million times 6 ways to die, choose one. Didn't get down or got shot by the gun. A million hybrids daily running from the sun. A million sellouts, they take checks in sums. A million think they're rich cause they spend fiat. A million conscious schools thinking they griots. Sinetta would tell you I flow the best from Canada. He's got proof, it's on camera. Decode your hip-hop from black dots to mundane circles, looking royal in blue or purples. Kings County sweater, keep me from the Mountie and the ones that want to hunt me for a bounty. I stay protected and watch for cons, riding the beat like the monsoon written by Mons. Where the future's thinking with grad caps, but knowledge of the universe the grad lacks. If education means put out, why they put institutions indoctrinate living in sin? First it was a dime, now they're looking for bin. TAC in your coffee, but they're not looking for Tim. Her imperial majesty is the feminine hymn. I'm the type to put the cross to the reverend's chin. Now we can't run like DMCs with him. I swear, y'all are deaf and just don't listen. Sun water, I spit, leave mics christen. Beats want me to get on, but producers are chicken. Million times 6 ways to die, choose one. Didn't get down or got shot by the gun. A million hybrids daily running from the sun. A million sell out, they take checks in sums. A million think they're rich cause they spend fiat. A million conscious coons thinking they griots.
See if it works.